All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining our monthly Intelligence for Admins webinar. Got a really cool topic for you today, barcodes, right? Using barcodes with TrackVia. I'm Derek. I lead our customer education efforts here at TrackVia. And we've also got Alex on the line with us today, one of our awesome implementation engineers. So I'll let Alex say hello to you all.
Hey team, excited to walk you through all of the features that barcodes can provide.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and click through just some housekeeping items here. Everyone's on listen only mode. If you have questions throughout the webinar, absolutely, please don't hesitate to send them through the chat, okay? We'll be watching them as they come in. We'll answer them. And we'll also have a section for questions at the end for ones that we didn't get to. And if we have so many questions we didn't get to all of them, then we'll follow up with you after the webinar. We apologize in advance. We are recording this webinar. All of our webinars are posted on the TrackVia University website, so you can go watch the recordings there after the fact, but we'll also send you an email with a link to that recording. Okay? So let's jump into the agenda for today. We're going to be looking at TrackVia's barcoding capabilities, right? What are they? What do we have the option to do within TrackVia when it comes to barcodes? Okay, we'll talk about some common use cases, some ways that our customers use barcode functionality. Then Alex is going to walk us through a demo in TrackVia so you can see it in action. Okay, any questions that we didn't get to during the capabilities or the use cases or the demo discussions, we'll also have a section for questions. We'll talk about some key takeaways, and then we will just wrap things up at the end. Okay. All right, so before we actually talk about the capabilities of TrackVia, let's play a fun game, all right? Let's say that the first person to scan this barcode and chat through where it takes you to will get a t-shirt, all right? We'll get an awesome, soft TrackVia t-shirt. So just scan it and tell us where it takes you, and the first person, you're gonna get that t-shirt, right? So this is a QR code. This is an example or a type of barcode, right? Basically, a barcode is just some data lives behind this, and when you scan it, you get you see what that data is. In this case, it's a URL. It's going to take you somewhere, right? So we're still waiting for that person to come through. I think you see it. I think it's coming. Anybody get out your phones, scan this. You got the little Chrome dinosaur. Michael Willman, our good friend, of course, sent it through. Where did it, it takes you to, if you didn't scan it, right? It takes you to the TrackVia University website, specifically to the webinars page, right? So you'll see there, we have all of our webinars. I think there's probably almost 2 years worth of webinars, 20 plus webinars up there for you to watch. So this is an example of using a barcode, okay? All right, let's talk about how TrackVia can be used with barcodes. So when we think about the capabilities that TrackVia has, it can really be kind of broken up into like 2 groups. The first group of functionality is around scanning, okay? So using the mobile device to scan a barcode, right? Just like this person is doing in the picture, there's a barcode that's on a package. And rather than typing in some long number into whatever app they're using, they just scan the barcode. And effectively, that's a form of data entry. It's going to take whatever value that barcode is built on and enter it into the app that they're using. And this is how TrackVia works, right? So rather than typing a long value or character string into a field in TrackVia, you can scan a barcode and have that value be entered automatically. It works in fields on forms. It works for searching views to find records. It works in flows, right? There's a lot of different places where you can actually scan rather than doing a manual data entry. The benefits of scanning are, they're immense, right? So there's really I'd say, two main benefits. The first is that the data entry is much, much faster, right? Let's imagine that this barcode that this person is scanning is built on like a 12-digit number, right? Rather than them having to look at the number, type a couple of them in, go back, look at it, type another couple in, back and forth, and then they mess up the data entry, so they got to redo it, right? Instead of taking all that time to do the data entry, scanning is instant, right? They just scan, boom, the value gets entered into the field. So really, really fast, saves you time. And then the other piece, which I just kind of mentioned, is it's impossible to mess up the data entry, right? I'm sure we've all shopped for something online and you type your credit card number in and then it's the wrong credit card number, right? You get it rejected, you got to go back. You're like, oh yeah, I messed up the credit card number, and you do it again, right? That just can't happen. You scan, the right number is going to go in every single time automatically. So data accuracy is improved and the speed in which you can do your data entry is improved. The byproduct of that is that your users are going to be happier. The user experience is so much better, so much faster, so much easier, so much more accurate. Okay, so scanning is kind of the first piece of functionality that TrackVia has. The second piece is actually around the generation of barcodes. Okay, and there's really two ways, there's more, but two main ways that you can generate a barcode from TrackVia. One is by using the mobile device. Okay, so we actually have a form capability that lets you take a value that's entered into TrackVia somewhere and convert that into a barcode. Okay, and you'll see that in Alex's demo. And then the other way, right, that's a mobile only, so you'll see the barcode on the mobile device, right? The other way that we have customers do this, if they want the barcode to be maybe a little bit more accessible, maybe visible on the web, right? A lot of times they'll use our integration platform, or Barcado, to actually hook into a barcode creation service. And there's lots of them out there. Lots of them are free, really easy to use. So we have a lot of customers that actually generate the barcode using a simple integration, send that back into TrackVia, and that becomes a little bit more flexible. You can do more things with it that way. Okay, and I think you'll see that today as well in the demo. So that's the generation piece. And then of course, like adjacent to that is the printing of the barcode. So after you've generated it in some way, perhaps you want to actually print it out and stick it on the package here, like in that example. Okay. So you'll see how we think about just printing barcodes in TrackVia. All right, if you have any questions about the capabilities, send them through. We'll see your questions. We'll see if we can get to them now. All right, now let's talk about common ways that our customers use barcodes with TrackVia. Okay, got a couple examples here, but there's really a lot of different ways. So one of the main ways is for inventory management. So I'll give you an example here. TrackVia, we give out a lot of swag, right? In fact, we're giving a t-shirt to Michael, right? Well, let's imagine that we gave out so much swag at TrackVia that we needed a warehouse down the street from our office, a really big warehouse to keep all that swag, right? And let's say we get a shipment of 100 or 500 t-shirts, 1,000 t-shirts, right? Well, we're going to need to store those t-shirts somewhere in the warehouse, right? So if you have an inventory management application in TrackVia where you see all the items that you have in inventory, where they're at, quantities, right? A really easy way to do that is to barcode the locations in which you're keeping inventory. Okay, so when we receive that shipment, you could take the t-shirts, bring it over to a location in the warehouse, and instead of saying, oh, this is in location, aisle 45, bay 19, shelf 8, and typing all that in to say where you're putting the t-shirts, you could just walk right up to the location, put the t-shirts in there, and scan the little barcode off of the location, right? Really quick and easy and impossible to mess it up. Okay, so that's an example of how you might use a barcode with locations and inventory management. Another really common one for barcodes is asset management. So if you have a physical item that you're trying to track, okay? So let's say, you know, imagine we're a construction company and we have a lot of, there's job sites that we're, you know, doing jobs at, and we check, you know, machinery in and out of the job sites, right? It's being used at these job sites, right? Perhaps bulldozers or backhoes, whatever it might be, right? Those pieces of machinery could potentially be serialized and barcoded, okay? So as they're coming onto a job site, you could say, yes, you know, this piece of equipment got here by scanning it into TrackVia, maybe performing a quality control or a safety check on it, right? You could do a lot of things just by scanning the barcode to look up that piece of equipment, okay? And then to take that one step further, perhaps a piece of equipment breaks down while it's at the job site and you need a technician to come out and fix that, right? Perhaps you scan the barcode, maybe it's a VIN number, something like that, right? Scan the barcode off the equipment or the piece of machinery, log a ticket, and a technician could come out to perform some maintenance on that item. That's almost like a work order, right? A work order for a technician to come out and fix one of those pieces of machinery. So example of, you know, just having somebody come work on a piece of machinery is an example of like a work order. And when it's done, again, they can scan the barcode and say, yep, I've fixed this bulldozer, whatever it might be, okay? Got this fourth kind of bubble up here, which is really just a little bit of a catch-all, but potentially any physical item that you're trying to track or you look up in TrackVia could be a candidate for barcoding it so that it's much easier to look those items up in TrackVia. Okay. Questions there? Send them through, right? We'll see if we can get to them. And in the meantime, that's it for me for right now, all right? We're gonna turn things over to Alex, and she's actually gonna show you what it looks like to use our barcoding capabilities in TrackVia. So should see Alex's screen pop up here in a second. Great, there it is.
Perfect.
All right, I'll turn it over to you, Alex.
Thank you much. All right, so I'm just going to walk you through an example of just one of the many ways that you could potentially be using barcodes using an app that I built to sort of track assets. So this little asset tracking app is utilized essentially whenever we're receiving an asset, we can record its serial number, generate a barcode or QR code for that item, and then we can essentially track the status of our item. Is it checked out? Is it with an employee, or is it sitting in storage? So that's this app that we're diving into today. So the first thing that I've done is I created a field on our assets table for our serial number. In utilizing that field, that's then going to generate something on mobile. So we'll just go through the process of quickly adding a brand new asset. Maybe we received a new shipment and we've got a new serial number. We're going to store it in our closet for now, and then we're good to go. So I've gone ahead and added my asset, and now I want to actually look at the generated QR code for that item. But first, I just want to show you sort of the back end of how are we generating this barcode in mobile. So it's a pretty simple step. So on our add a new and review an asset form, I can just go in there and I can take any single line field that I'd like, and I can set it up for barcode generation with a simple click of a button. And so with that click of the button, I can decide what sort of code I want to use. In this case, we like QR codes. They're really simple and perfect for our need, but you might have a scanning device that only works with code 93. So that's the type of barcode you'd like to generate instead. So lots of options here, but we went with QR codes. And so now if I turn it over to my mobile device with a weird ad on it, I can open all of my available assets and look at the asset that I just added to our system, and I can see the nicely generated QR code. So now I can actually utilize that QR code and take it a step further and put it on the asset. So this looks a little bit different on Apple. You'll have to take a screenshot and then utilize that image. But in my case, I'm just going to hold down on the QR code since I'm on an Android device. And I can print this if I have a nice little printer already set up, and I can send that QR code directly to maybe to a label printer or something of that nature, so that I can then just label my asset. In my case, I've got a cute little label printer instead, and it doesn't work through Wi-Fi, so I've got it connected through Bluetooth. So I'm going to take a slightly different route than print, and I'm actually going to share it to one of my image apps, so that I can then just save it as an image. And then I'm going to go over to my printer and create a new label for it. I'm going to go ahead and insert my latest little picture. That's not the right one. There it is. So I go ahead and grab my little label that I'd like. I can adjust sizing, obviously, all of that good stuff that you normally would do. And then I'm just going to make it nice and large for my needs and print. And so now I have so again, you can do that from either device, Android or Apple. You're just maybe going to take a slightly different route to get to it. So I slap that on my new asset. And now I could actually utilize that. So I could use it to update an asset. I can use my mobile device and go back to my TrackVia app. And now somebody's approached me and they want to check out this asset. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Oh, let me fix my casting for you. So back on my mobile device, what I'm going to do now is scan this QR code to find the item and check it out for a user. So now somebody's ready to utilize it. We're going to go ahead and do that. So I go to my little flow that I've already created for checking out an asset, and I see that nice little scan feature. So that's going to be in your views, in your forms. You're going to be able to scan QR codes throughout, and it's just going to reduce some of that human error that we talked about. It's going to make it faster to find your item, faster to sort of make sure you got the right item. If you had to make updates to that item, again, we can find it right away and update that asset. So let me scan this item and check it out to an employee. Nope. I might have printed the wrong QR code, but that's okay. So it told me it didn't find it. So that's a really perfect example of I printed the wrong QR code here. But it helps me know that this asset is not in my system and I need to add it. So it makes it really easy. But I'm just going to go ahead and grab this asset since we know it. I could go ahead and assign it to an employee. I can name what kind of condition it's in. So I can do all of the tracking that I need to do really, really quickly if I had scanned the right QR code. And then I can even have an employee sign out on my mobile device so that they can check out the item. So that's the only item we want to check out here. So I've checked it out to my employee and now they're all good to go. So again, I could utilize the other method of maybe I open my available assets and I want to scan a code of an item. So I can go to this scan at the top. Instead of searching and finding the exact serial code, I could just scan my QR code to find my item in my list. And then I could go and update that item if it's in my list. So pretty easy to use, and that's the great part of it. Again, it eliminates some of that human error. And so a couple of other reasons that you might want to actually utilize this. Maybe you have folks checking things out like our system. Maybe you're making a purchase. Maybe your team consistently reorders coffee beans from this one vendor. You always need those stocked in your office. You put a QR code on that coffee bean and you send it to your system and you're automatically reordering a bag for the next week. So you can set it up within your forms and just make things really, really automatic for some of your workflows, especially if you're, utilizing that mobile device to scan and sort of keep it moving. Another great example within your reader itself, technology is enhancing and we now have ways to actually read QR codes on phones. So if you've got something like Google Lens on an Android device, or if you've got a QR reader on your iPad, you can actually utilize that to read the QR code directly on your device. So let's say on my mobile device, I was actually setting up these QR codes to be usable by my users. So maybe I'm like, let's see, a good one. Just click on the latest one. So in this case, I might use something like Google Lens, and I might say, let's go find this item on the internet with Google Lens. And so it's going to tell me if it can find anything. In this case, it just knows it's a serial number. It's not really sure what to do with it. But if I used that QR code like a URL or a web link, I could take folks directly to a form. I could take folks directly to a dashboard. I could take folks directly into a website where maybe they're checking out and looking at a book in our resources, and that author is coming for a reading soon. And we've got a QR code on that book so that anybody who's interested in reading that book, maybe they get interested and scan that QR code. It takes them to our website to tell them all about the author is coming visit, and they can sign up and receive updates. So you can use it in lots of really unique and interesting ways. The possibilities really honestly are endless. And the last thing I wanted to really show you today is just a couple of ways that folks take some of the steps that I did manually, and they actually automate some of that a little bit further using some of our integration platforms. So using a microservice or our integration partner like Workato, you can actually do some of what I did automatically. So in this case, I've set up a Workato recipe that automatically generates a QR code for any of my assets. I could do this with a barcode. I could, again, do whatever sort of system I want. But I've got this really, really basic recipe of like anytime that I add asset, I'd like it to find that asset that I added, and then using a QR code generator that we found through an open API, I want you to go ahead and send that request over, send that new serial number, give me a QR code back, and then I'm going to upload that QR code directly to TrackVia. So if we look at our all assets table, we can see that these are automatically generating. So what I did from the mobile device to print, put on, that QR code on my item, Workato, one of our integration partners, could do that automatically for you and generate those QR codes. I could even add an ending step here of send it to my printer. So I could sort of add on to this recipe and make it as complex as I want to and as automatic as I want to sort of make sure that I'm reducing my need for manual labor here when we have great opportunities like this to use an integration. So again, you can do it manually like I did. You can work with an integration to do some of it more automatically. If you've got a special printer for this directed, you could be sending your QR codes the minute that you create a new asset or the minute that you create a new QR code that you and your team want to use. So lots of ways to do this. Basically, connect it on your forms, generate on mobile, scan it, find it, use those barcodes to their fullest extent. And it looks like we do have one question that's a little off topic.
That's okay. We welcome any question.
Yeah.
Do you want to show Tom the answer to that question?
Yeah, so you wanted to know about our quick links. So yeah, that was a really easy thing to put together. So if I want to go and edit this dashboard, quick links comes from our widgets, and it's a shortcut panel. So whenever you add one of these shortcut panels, they come up as a shortcut panel, and then you can rename it And then all you have to do is decide what you want people to be able to easily go to. Are they going to views? Are they adding data through a form? Do you want them to search? Are you sending them to an outside link or an internal TrackVia link, either or. And so that's how I put together my quick links field. And then we've got another one. If we had a wireless barcode in a warehouse setting, and we have a QR code generator to tag inventories as well as products, we want to scan an order number so it's active record in TrackVia, and then scan a location and scan out of that location and onto the order. I see. Yeah, that would be a great opportunity to use QR codes and barcodes. In that case, let's see. So you would need location tags. So you would generate barcodes or QR codes, however you're scanning those. You would generate those location codes and you would pop those as you need them. And then you would also generate, you would enter your new products and then generate a QR code from it or a barcode. You would then put it on the product itself, and then yeah, you could scan in that product, and then within the actual field itself. So let's take a look at an example. Let me pull up my phone again so that we can see this in real time. All right, so if I go back to TrackVia, so in my case, I've got storage locations, and so I could turn those into barcodes as well, and I could just scan for those as well. So that's a really easy change, almost exactly the example you're sort of looking for. We've got an asset that we scanned in, and that asset is now pulled up, and now I want to adjust the location with a scan as well. Very, very applicable use case. Is the QR code in the default view an image field? I believe when you're, yeah, good question. So we're just using a single line field for our asset, and that's typically what you use for a barcode. And so it's just going to look like a single line field. So this is our serial number right here. And if I go to the default view, I got to go to this one. If I go to the default view, it's just my serial number. So it's just a single line field on my web device. When I'm on a mobile device, I can pull up the form to view the QR code. But again, in the view itself, it's always just going to be whatever that single line field information is. It's not going to look like an image field. Now, in this case where we have our integration connected, we are slotting the QR codes into an image field. And so those will appear as images because this isn't a mobile only thing. We wanted it to be available on our desktop and on mobile, which is why we generate as an image here. Great questions.
Keep them coming. These are awesome.
The web link option works well too for larger buttons. Totally agree. Contractors invoices 100%. So if you've got contractors you're typically working with, what I've seen some customers do is they just print out all of their QR codes on one PDF sheet, and then they use that sheet whenever they're doing their orders, and they're like, oh, I'm working with Gary today, so I'm going to go ahead and scan him in, and I'm going to send him his latest invoice. And so, yeah, there are a lot of ways to use this endlessly, and that's definitely one of them.
Yeah, you could imagine like employee badges with QR codes on them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Scanning them as you.
Yeah, signing folks in, signing folks out,
yeah.
attending meetings and tracking attendance, all those good things. Are there examples or suggestions for batch scanning? I would think with Workato. Derek, thoughts?
I guess it kind of depends on what you're trying to do. I could, anywhere that you can, I shouldn't say anywhere, but most places in TrackVia where you can just type a value into a field to look for something is an opportunity to scan something as well. So maybe you have a multi-select widget in TrackVia where you want to scan, like I'm checking out 5 things right now, and you have all the 5 things in front of you, and you have a multi-select widget, and you just scan all 5. So all 5 of those things go into the multi-select widget, and then you can check them all out at once. Like that's the first thing that pops into my mind. I'm sure there's other ways to accomplish things, maybe a looping flow in TrackVia. So yeah, definitely possible to do some batch scanning. Yeah.
Love it. And then somebody wanted to see a little bit more detail on the Workato recipe, so I'm happy to show that off. Workato is a great little tool for doing a lot of things automatically. So basically, I'm just checking my all assets view, since it's a pretty unfiltered view of all of my assets. So whenever something gets added to this table, that triggers this recipe to run. I then go ahead and grab that asset using the ID from the item that came through in step 1. And then I send that request. The way that I've done this is I just looked up a QR code generator, OpenAPI. You can look up developer docs, API, barcode generator. You can look specifically for whatever you're looking for. But essentially, I followed Google's API version because they had a really simple QR reader to utilize. And so I just pull in their request URL. I pulled in the necessary information, like how big do I want it and what do I want it to generate, in this case, just a QR. And then I threw in my actual serial number that's going to actually go on the QR code. So pretty simple steps. Again, I got all of this from Google's API and like how I wanted to set this up. And working with IEs like myself, we can build this for you if you're interested. But yeah, the next step is it just uploads that QR code directly back to TrackVia in an image field that I already created for it. So I added an image field to my asset table so that we could store these QR codes that are being generated. And then I'm just using some of the data pills from previous steps in the recipe to fill that in to label the file name, to decide what type of item it is, all of those good things. Sorry, it looks like I lost everybody for a second, so apologies. But yeah, I was just explaining the last of the Workato recipe of just using some data pills to sort of fill out, you know, that I want it to come through as a PNG. I could also probably do a JPEG. I think PNGs tend to work better for QR codes. I think that's why I chose that. But then I could take this even further. Like I said, I could say step 5, now take that code and let's send it to a printer. And so maybe I have a printer directly connected to my system that I can just send this through on Wi-Fi and get it to print out for me.
And that's a perfect segue into the next question about just seeing that field on the grid view again. Yeah.
So if we're talking about the generated by TrackVia barcode, it's just the serial number. That's all we're going to see on desktop. But yeah, I can see the QR code right here. I can click into it and view it larger. I could pull this up on the form itself, any of the above. And yeah, it's just an image, a PNG file uploaded there.
So basically what that integration did was it took that serial number that Alex typed in, said, hey, Google, turn this serial number into a QR code. And then the integration took that QR code and put it back into an image field in the record, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then it looks like doc parser integrates. Oh, Google heard its name and thought we were talking to it.
I'm sorry.
So doc parser integrates with TV for bulk scanning multiple barcodes, QRs at once. Okay, great. That's good to know. So yeah, you could easily set up a simple integration with doc parser if you wanted to do batch barcode scanning. Thank you, Matt. Really helpful comment. And he said it depends on the quality of barcode you have, so keep that in mind.
Awesome. I think we got to all the questions that folks sent through. So if you have others, send them through now. I highly suggest everyone barcodes the coffee that they have in their office, right? For easy reordering. That's definitely the most important way to use this capability. No, thanks, Alex. That was awesome. I think it's really great to see it kind of like start to finish, right? So you enter the serial number, TrackVia mobile app turns that into a QR code, send it to the little printer that Alex had, right? Prints it out and then use that on a physical item to manage the assets. Check it out, check it in, do whatever you need to do with it, right? So
Update the asset. Maybe it's broken and we need to take it out of commission or send it for repairs, and we want to track that status and track notes on it of like the last person broke it. So we can charge them for it. Who knows?
awesome. Do you have another question? Will scanning the barcode only work if it's the record ID, or can it search the table?
Yeah, it should search the table. And so that should be no problem at all. It can be record ID or it can be any field within that table. It might have a little bit of a harder time if your fields maybe aren't indexed, if you're not using it as the record ID, but there really shouldn't be any trouble searching for it in either place. Great question,
Yeah,
Damon.
and to add a little bit more to that too, it depends on where you're scanning, right? So you saw when Alex checked out the asset, she went to a form and scanned into a relationship field the barcode, the QR code, right? So that, of course, is only going to look up the record ID in the parent table, right? So when you're scanning into a relationship field, yes, the serial number needs to be the record ID. But if you're just scanning to search in a view, like the one that she has up here on the screen, yeah, it would search all the fields like your search normally does, right? Yeah.
Great questions.
Oh. All right, keep them coming. Keep them coming. Let's take. I'll kind of take the screen share back here. See if I can do that. Yeah, awesome. Everyone can see the demo. Cool. We just did a bunch of questions, so keep sending through if you have more. I think we've got more time. Yeah, we've got some more time here if we have more questions. But let's talk about some of the key takeaways, right? So barcodes, right, as we saw, makes data entry so much faster, easier, and way more accurate, like 100% accurate, right? So no more fat fingering your entry, right? So if you have a physical asset, it's worth considering using this sort of functionality to take advantage of that. Okay, so barcoding your physical items, so then it's easier to look them up in TrackVia. Generation and scanning is usually controlled at the form level in TrackVia. So we saw Alex pulled up, there was a field on her table called serial number. And typing a serial number into that field does not automatically generate a barcode, right? You have to go to the form that you're using on mobile and say specifically, I want to turn this field into a barcode. Okay, and then you get to choose which barcode. We saw that. So it's at the form level. Also, if you want to scan data into any fields on a form, you also kind of have to check that box that says yes, like scanning ability on this field. Okay. Yeah, and if you need more flexibility than that, don't forget about using the integration platform. Really quick and easy to set up a lot of integrations that way, including generating a barcode or a QR code or whatever it may be, and putting that back into TrackVia. Okay. All right, let's see. Got another question here. That's cool. This is a cool use case. I like this. All right, so we hear from Michael that they have a fundraiser race coming up. 5K, 10K, maybe it's a marathon, don't know. And they sent out an email with a unique barcode to all participants. Maybe this was done in TrackVia, I'm not sure. And then basically to check in, they present the email that they got and they scan the barcode out of the email. Really, really cool to check in for the race. Maybe that's all happening right within TrackVia, checking people in to the race by scanning the barcode that they got in the email. Awesome. Love to hear really cool examples of how our customers are using this. Thanks, Michael. It's great to hear that. All right, so let's wrap things up here. If you're looking for more resources on this topic, we've got a couple of TrackVia University courses that touch on it, forms and mobile, and the integration platform is also kind of a good way to learn about the things that you can do with it with Workada, right? Integration platform. I've got some knowledge base articles that you can check out on creating barcodes. Of course, you can always contact our support team, Monday through Friday, I think 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. You just give them a call, you can ask them more questions. And then, as Alex said, of course, got to put in the plug for our implementation team, right? If you ever need more help, maybe setting up an integration or doing something a little bit more robust with barcoding, we're always here to help you. We've got great implementation engineers like Alex to help you out when you need it. And that's it, right? So as we said, this will be recorded, posted on the TrackVia University website in the webinars section, which was the QR code that you scanned. I know all of you scanned it at the beginning of the webinar. So that's it. I don't think we have any more questions. So thanks everyone for coming. And we'll see you next time on our next Intelligence for Admins webinar. All right. Thanks, Alex, too, for presenting and showing us how to do that today. So, all right. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.